Hey everyone, welcome back to the Jill Lublin Show, and I am so happy you're here today. We have a wonderful guest who will actually help you understand why podcasts are great and important. And her name is Megan Dougherty, and she is a digital marketing strategist with a background in online business development. She's had the opportunity over the years to work with hundreds of business owners in a huge variety of industries as the co-founder of One Stone Creative. Welcome, Megan.
Jill, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, I'm delighted you're here too. And, of course, here we are on a podcast, which of course you understand how important it is. Why do you think podcasts are so important?
I mean, there's so many different reasons they can be important for business, so many different ways they can be important. And I think one of the biggest and the best ones is as a networking and a relationship building opportunity. And that happens when hosts have guests on their show and they get to build a relationship that way. But it also happens when hosts, even if they have solo shows or if they have guests, the relationship that they're building with their audience is really real as well. Because when people listen to podcasts, they get to know the hosts and they get to like the hosts. And ultimately, that's who they're really showing up for. So it's an important relationship too.
Yes, right, with all your listeners. So that's important. Now, I know you work a lot with business owners, and how are some ways that business owners can leverage podcasts?
Well, over the years that we've been working with business owners, we've been doing this since 2017, my team and I, there's 5 key ways that a podcast can really make a big difference in a business. And we call them the business podcast blueprints. So the first is, as we were talking about, relationship building. Podcasts can really help people build the relationships that they need. The next one is audience engagement. And that's where when you've already got people who know about you, maybe you're a speaker or an author, you've got other ways that people find you, your audience, your podcast engages them and gets you closer with them and keeps you top of mind with them. Then there can be thought leadership podcasts where you really use it as a vehicle to get your own IP out there to make sure that everyone you're known as the authority and the trusted resource in your space. Then there's conversion podcasts, and those exist largely to change people from one type of relationship to another type of relationship, maybe an email subscriber or a customer. And then finally, there are content. Content is a huge piece of value for business owners because when you podcast, you create content and a lot of it. And that can be distributed in all areas of the business, internal, external, you name it, it can have a value there. So that's kind of that's where we start our conversations about podcast value is which of those is going to be the most important to a business. Though of course most podcasts will get benefits of all the different types as they go along.
I love that. So yeah, that's really helpful. And a lot of different ways that people can reach, and frankly for different purposes. And
Yeah.
I hear that that's the different types and styles. Is that right? What you're indicating right there?
Those are the different kind of, we call it, they're the reasons for podcasts to exist. So that's kind of like where when you're thinking, should I have a podcast? And you said, yes, I should have a podcast. It's usually a good idea to pick one or two of those that are the most important things. And then you can make other decisions like, should I have guests? Will that help me build relationships? Yes, it will. Will it help me build my own thought leadership? Well, maybe not so much. And so when you know what's the most important thing for your podcast, then you can make decisions about things like should it be solo episodes? Should I have guests? Should I have sponsors? Where should I promote? So choosing a business goal and matching your podcast to that is going to help you make all of the other decisions about type and style, and even length and frequency.
And do you think really anyone can have a podcast or should or can?
Anyone definitely could. And I think there's definitely an argument to be made that everybody should because it can bring so many different types of value. But I think it's a good idea to make sure of a couple things first because it's really easy to start podcasting and, because everyone else is doing it or because it's really popular and it's of the moment. But, you can get into it and then the project sort of fizzles out because it does take a lot of work, as you know, and it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of energy to keep it rolling. So if it's not actually delivering the value in a way that you can measure, it can be really hard to justify the continued effort and expense of podcasting. So I think that if you're a brand new business owner and you are spending so much time just getting things off the ground, wait on the podcast a year or two. And I think if you try podcasting, maybe start with a season or start with, I'm going to podcast for 6 months, put an end date on it where you're going to evaluate, is this working for me? Do I know that it's working for me? And then you can say like, I love this. I'm going to keep doing this forever. It's a great part of my business. Or you might decide, actually, I hate everything about this and I never want to do it again. And that's perfectly okay too.
Right. And well, I think my podcast is very short. I'm a big believer now
Yeah.
that people need short, quick, digestible pieces of content, which is why I love doing short podcasts, and actually have a rule against doing long podcasts. I don't do
Yeah.
them. I don't have a guest on them, all that good stuff. What do you say about this?
I think, well, the answer to the question, how long should my podcast be, is the same as the answer to the question, how long is a piece of rope? And it really depends on you as the business owner, your audience, what they look for, and even your industry to an extent. So you've determined short podcasts are the way to go. That's the best fit for your audience. It's how you get the best content out there. It fits into your schedule. That's perfect. Me as a listener, give me a good 2 hour long solo episode deep diving into something historical. I am there for that. And so it really depends. My own podcast, I tend to make it in the 30 minutes seems to be a sweet spot for me to kind of cover what I want to cover in an episode. So it really comes down to how much time does it take you to really thoroughly explore an idea while still respecting the needs of the audience and, the schedule of the week.
Yeah, and I think different styles, right? My people, and I'm in publicity, I
Yeah.
train people to be short, concise, precise in their communication. So I need to walk that talk.
Yeah.
If you're doing a
I love that.
historical podcast, it's a different style. And of course, as a listener and viewer, you can choose too, depending on who you are. But I know that I serve successful business people are a time
Yeah.
crunch. I want to give them those chunk bites, high value, quickly. So I think really seeing what fits in your style and what your audience needs, which is what you're saying, Megan, right?
Exactly. And even different lengths of podcast can fit into different parts of somebody's workday. If you've got a wonderful 15-minute bite and that's a perfect way for someone to start their day while they're kind of getting ready to work, that's perfect. Because that fits into what your audience is looking for. And it takes a little experimentation sometimes to figure out exactly what that's going to be. But when you land on it, you can usually tell from the response.
Yeah, it's a good thing. So how do you measure the success of a podcast?
I measure the success of a podcast by,
Yeah.
by my favorite metrics are how well it achieves the business goal that we set out to in the beginning. So if I have a podcast and it's like, this is a podcast all about relationship building so that I can get new referral partners, then I measure success by how many new referral partners I get because they were guests on my show. It might be the length of my sales cycle from people who have listened to the podcast. And I know, hey, I've cut it down from 6 weeks to 4 weeks. That's awesome and successful. I'm going to watch and see how that goes. So individual metrics, well, metrics can be as individual as the businesses that run podcasts. And that's part of the design process at the beginning. And so as long as a podcast is as long as it's giving a return on the investment that a business owner is making on it, I consider that valuable and successful. And that can mean a lot of different things for a lot of different businesses, but it usually doesn't mean the downloads.
Got it. I love that. And so that's really helpful. And of course, everything you've spoken is great value today. And I know
Thank you.
there are going to be absolutely, viewers who want more, shall we say. And I understand you have a free gift for us. What is it?
Absolutely. I have to every year since 2020, my team and I have done a research report into the top 100 business podcasts, and we've looked at what are they doing that makes them successful. What are the industry standards and best practices we should be following? That is freely available. You can find it at podcastingforbusiness.com, and you can download any of the last 5 years of results, but the most interesting are the last years.
Oh, that's phenomenal. Thank you for that. Better you do the research than us. And that's a wonderful free gift that I think gives us lots of great value quickly. Thank you
Really
so
great
much
info.
for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jill. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you watching and listening. And please, hey, go check out JillLublin.com and also come to our kindness circles. Great way to network in the area of kindness all the time, and check out our publicity challenge. So with that, I want to say thank you for stopping by, and we will see you again next time. Bye-bye, everyone.